Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining the Global Research Alliance Council Meeting 2022, Day 3. My name is Alfonso Arellano, and I will be your Master of Ceremony. Yesterday, we had a very productive day in which we heard the members and partners' announcements reports from the co-chairs and agreed on 4 new flagship projects. Remember, there are 2 pending initiatives, Hungate Collection and MacB, that we will review during the agenda item planning actions for 2022. Or if you prefer, you can leave your support in the chat. Finalizing with the project and partner presentations by CGR and SAI platform, which we welcome as a new partner of the GRA. To begin with our 3rd day of activities, we have organized a workshop on mitigation options in smallholders and the significant challenges this posed to our countries and organizations. For this, we would like to thank and welcome the presentations by Eugenia Zaini from Fontagro, Cecilia Giannoni from Procisur, Cecilia Jones from Placa, and Hernan Chiriboga from ICA.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting Fontagro to this important workshop on mitigation of greenhouse gases in smallholders, hosted by the National Research Institute of Chile and the Global Research Alliance, among other partners. My name is Eugenia Zaini. I am Executive Secretary of Fontagro, the Regional Fund for Agricultural Technology. Fontagro has currently 15 countries, 14 from Latin America and Spain, and since 1998, we work together with other partners to promote public science, public national and regional public good. Fontagro and the Global Research Alliance are working since 2009 up to now. We have invested together with the local research agencies about $7.6 million, leveraging up to $7 for each dollar that Fontagro invested in the research. The first research started around 2009, 2010, was led by the Agricultural National Research Institute of Uruguay. And it was when the first estimates on greenhouse gases came up, comparing them with the estimates that were used by the for the IPCC. This was really a pioneer work of Argentina, Colombia, Chile, Uruguay, and the Dominican Republic, which helped countries to demonstrate with a better accurate their greenhouse gases emission and coefficients. This project taught us the importance of collaborative work among scientists in different countries and regions. And these countries carried out their emission inventories for that time up to now. This initial work was soon after had its impacts on other countries in Central America and the Andean region. For example, in 2014, we joined together with the Global Research Alliance in a similar research in Costa Rica, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama, which decided to track emission based on different livestock management and strategies, focusing on feeding and other agronomic practices at the farm level. Similar research was also done in the Andean region, specifically in Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. These countries worked together on improving the emission quantification and designing better strategies for the livestock production system in very different environments. We also complemented these before initiatives with other capacity building activities, for example, trainings and seminars, and that supported also a high level meeting at CATIE in 2018 that was made with a focus on helping the Latin American countries and created an environment or a dialogue to discuss how we can improve sustainability and resilience of the livestock and dairy production systems. More recently, Fontagro and the Global Research Alliance have been involved in other more diverse initiatives, for example, on soil carbon sequestration research, which also brought the attention of the different American organizations, for example, the Foundation for Food and Agricultural Research, and also from Dr. Ratan Lal from the Ohio State University. Other initiatives were done together with the Global Research Alliance since 2019. Those are more related with smart agriculture and also AgTech initiatives, where we are really looking to improve the livestock and the dairy practices using, for example, satellite images to a better understanding of the grazing management or also the pasture of forest cycles. We foster really collaborative and participatory research by promoting multi-stakeholder and interdisciplinary projects, which we call together real regional innovation platforms. We foster these new innovation ecosystems where the public and the private sector can do the research, learn together, and also learn by doing. We co-invest in research and innovation, looking for a better understanding of how those ecosystems works, how we can help the local production system to build better strategies, to increase productivity, to increase efficiencies, but also while decreasing the greenhouse gases emissions. Overall, working together in the last 10, 11 years have brought to us very important results, not only from the research, but also we have promoted hundreds of scientists with a better understanding, a better training. And also we have been working in around 1,000 small farmers that help also the scientists to have a greater understanding on the practices. Recently in 2021, we have also organized a first high-level meeting with 7 ministers of agriculture, including the New Zealand minister, to discuss the future of the development of agricultural technology to cope with the main challenges that the agriculture face on climate change, adaptation, and mitigation worldwide. The Global Research Alliance and Fontagro is really a successful partnership, contributing to public research worldwide, helping farmers, and increasing resilience over the climate change challenges. Currently, Fontagro and the Global Research Alliance have a call for proposal together, which is open in our webpage. It's going to close on April 8th. And we are really expecting a high level number of project profiles that can show us how from research we can improve resilience at the farm level. Finally, as we all know, global warming caused by greenhouse gas emissions is a major environmental concern yesterday, today, and in the future. All countries have ratified the Kyoto Protocol, are required to submit periodically reports on the IPCC about their emissions and climate change adaptation and mitigation programs. As the population grows and the demand for protein increases, livestock and dairy become really important sources. Global Research Alliance and Fontagro, as well as the research agencies in Latin America and the Caribbean, are committed to enhancing research and creating new knowledge that can increase sustainability and resilience for farmers to climate change. This is a common challenge and therefore a joint work. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank INEA Chile and the Global Research Alliance for this opportunity to share our experience and discuss future mutual cooperation. And I also want to wish our member, INEA Chile, every success during the Global Alliance presidency. I am going to give you a brief summary of what Processur is. I will share with you to the experience we have on climate change with emphasis in mitigation and smallholders, topics of this event, and I will give you some general highlights. So, to start, Processur is a cooperation program created in 1980 with the support of the IDB and involves the National Agricultural Research Institutes from Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Paraguay, and Uruguay, and the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture. Our current medium-term plan establishes our strategic orientations. We have 3 strategic pillars: supplies for public policies, human capital and knowledge management, and science, technology, and innovation. And these pillars guide our actions in the strategic lines shown on the slide. Processur is a strong network for research and development that brings together over 5,000 researchers, most of them with postgraduate degrees, over 500 centers, experimental stations, units, and laboratories in the region, and 3 laboratories abroad. Along our history, we have implemented 40 projects in alliance with strategic partners from countries all over the world. As we all know, the southern corn is one of the main food suppliers to the world, with the potential of feeding more than 2 billion people. This is a great opportunity for us to generate scientific evidence that gives and demonstrates the sustainability of our production systems. For over the past 40 years, the main contributions of cooperation were: 1, supporting capacity building on strategic issues for the region, and through strategic alliances that has allowed our researchers to integrate into a wider global innovation system with the strong networks of public and private actors and international organizations. 2, leverage institutional resources, human, infrastructure, and financial, and it has also speeded up research and development processes by doing research in different environments and countries. And 3rd, installing strategic issues in our regional agenda that became an important input for our members' national strategies. Now, considering the Global Research Alliance agenda, I will present a brief of our collaborative projects about current and future impacts on climate change on our production systems, as well to generate technologies and management practices for adaptation and most recently mitigation of its effects. Regarding impact measurements and adaptation strategies, as you can see, since 2004, Procesur implemented 3 projects focused on learning about the potential impacts of future climate scenarios and systematizing or generating technologies and practices for adaptation to them. In 2011, one of the projects included the perspective of the smallholders. In our region, family farming represents, on average, 88% of all existing farms and has a fundamental role in the provision and supply of food in the region, as well as in the employment of labor. So, to generate public research and appropriate technologies for them is key to contributing to its sustainability. The project used a participatory research methodology to evaluate together the vulnerabilities of family farmers and to identify the appropriate adaptation practices in scenarios of high variability of temperature and precipitation. While for several years, regional and national agenda focused on adaptation aspects, in 2010, the concern about measures to mitigate and reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases became part of our agenda. We carried out a study on the carbon footprint of agriculture in our region that alerted us to the threats and responsibilities of the region's product growth. As you can see, Fontagro and the Global Research Alliance have been 2 great allies in addressing mitigation research. In 2012, we started a project on quantification and mitigation options for methane and nitrous oxide emissions of bovine under grazing conditions. And more recently, in 2019, we started 2 projects. One, ended last year, incorporates innovative and sustainable management practices, articulating production with conservation. The second one, still in progress and co-funded by Fontagro, Procesur and the Global Research Alliance, is generating information to assess the impact of pastures with legumes on the soil, both in biological nitrogen fixing and carbon sequestration, on animal productivity, and on GHG emissions. So, to sum up, the sustainability of food system is a global requirement, and we must work on it. Our countries are not the most responsible for the impacts of climate change, but they are strongly affected by it. And in recent years, we have experienced extreme events with greater frequency and intensity. And we know the reduction of methane emissions from agriculture will allow short-term effects on the planet's temperature, and this is one of the commitments assumed recently by our countries at COP26. Based on our experience, we must generate, document, and display information and measurements at the local level, as well as technologies or management practices that value the sustainability of our production system, like livestock produced in natural or integrated carbon neutral ecosystems. In this topic, regional collaborative research has much to contribute and is an urgent task. We must do more research on GHG mitigation measures. That's why this year, Prosisur is going to create a task force on this specific topic. Specifically for smallholders, that we know is the most affected sector, it is important to highlight that technology has to be appropriate to their needs and to their scale of production, but this is not enough. They also need other conditions like training, local infrastructure, public policies, access to natural and financial resources, and insurance to achieve a real impact in reducing poverty and on the impacts of climate change. I would like to thank you again for the opportunity, and I'm confident that we will continue to work together with the Global Research Alliance, supporting and promoting research to generate more technology and knowledge for farmers, particularly smallholders, to face the urgent challenges that climate change imposes us. Thank you very much.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody in this meeting. My name is Cecilia Jones. I'm representing PLACA. That's the Latin American Platform for Climate Action in Agriculture. And I'm going to share with you some concepts regarding PLACA, what we're doing and how it relates to mitigation and smallholders. I'm speaking from Uruguay. So here we go. PLACA, it's a relatively new platform that started in COP25. It was a Chilean initiative and has the objective of promoting collaboration among Latin American and Caribbean countries with regional international partnerships and institutions for the implementation of regional and national climate strategies on agriculture, considering the social, the environmental, and economic dimensions. So the center of PLACA are the countries, and in particular, the ministries of agriculture of our countries. Currently, we have 12 members, and here we have a list. It's Argentina, Bahamas, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Haiti, Peru, Mexico, Dominican Republic, and my country, Uruguay. Currently, Uruguay holds the presidency of PLACA, and Costa Rica is our co-president of the platform. We also have associate members that are other institutions that are concerned about climate action in agriculture. And here you have the logos of the associate organizations to PLACA. We are organized in 4 thematic working groups. And the focus is collaboration between the countries for climate action, in particular at the farmers level. We have a thematic group in adaptation and mitigation, where we have the goal of contributing to the development of adaptation and mitigation actions at the farm level. Also, we have a group of public policy that supports the coordination between countries regarding policy implementation. We have a thematic group in research, development, and innovation, and also a thematic group in transfer of knowledge and good practices. So overall, these groups, we are trying to focus in action and in adaptation with all the co-benefits in mitigation that are related with good adaptation strategies. The groups are formed by people from all the different member countries, and they're researchers mostly, or technical officers of the Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of Environment. And those are the motors of the PLACA activities. Each of these groups has a yearly plan, and we are in our 2nd year of PLACA formation, and we have done quite a few capacity strengthening work and policy analysis and stock taking and all those things that are the building blocks for implementation strategies. We are in the process of trying to develop financing strategies to do like a regional approach to these things. I brought here just to share one specific example of the kind of things we want to develop in Placa. This is a project that's going on in my country, in Uruguay. It's funded by GEF, and it's the climate smart livestock production and land restoration in Uruguayan rangelands. And it works at the family farm level in livestock farm with a methodology of co-innovation to redesign the production process and deploy climate smart livestock strategies. I brought here some data to illustrate what are the kind of things that we hope we can do at a regional level. This project's been going on for a little bit over a year, but we do have good data coming out after one full year of implementation of climate smart livestock production practices in the farms that are members of this project. And what we've seen compared to our baseline, meaning the situation before the project, is that with climate smart livestock practices, we're able to increase beef production, kilograms of beef per hectare. We're able to increase net family income because we're also able to lower the cost of production. And regarding mitigation, we were able to reduce the total greenhouse gas emissions from these farms. And that's related to our NDC. We were able to reduce also the intensity of greenhouse gas emissions, that is, emissions per kilogram of beef. These are the kind of things that we think they can be done. And we see in regional approaches to this kind of strategy, we see a great potential of being able to do a scaling up of this kind of practices. If it can be done at family farms in livestock production system in Uruguay, we believe that as a region, we can do that and we can do it even better. So with this, I'm open to any questions that you want to ask, and I'll continue listening to all the rest of the presentations of the workshop.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank INEA and the Global Research Alliance for collaborating with AICA and letting us explain a little bit what we're doing in concrete actions with smallholders to mitigate greenhouse gases in Chile and in the Americas. First of all, I would like to explain a little bit what is AICA for the people that don't know us. The AICA is the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture. We are the specialized agency for agriculture of the Inter-American system. We have 34 offices in the 34 countries of the hemisphere, and we have a special office in Spain that deals with agricultural exports to Europe. We have 5 hemispheric programs, and one is related to climate change, natural resources, and management of production risks. We have 2 cross-cutting issues: gender and youth, and innovation and technology. In general terms, we are the agricultural arm of the OES. And I would like to present 3 concrete cases that we are working as an ICA office in Chile to mitigate greenhouse gases. The first one would be a sustainable innovation. It's an irrigation system with clay pots. These are the clay pots. They are made by local artisans, and they serve very well as a irrigation instrument. They use less than 1/3 of the water of a normal irrigation system, and they let us work with the local communities because the irrigation system is produced in the community. And you can use gray water because the clay pot serves as a filter. In less water, with the use of gray water, we are researching a little bit of the use of salt water, of seawater, in order to produce vegetables. I would like to share a small video of the technology so you will understand a little bit better, and then I'll talk a little else. As you can see, it's a very low cost and efficient system. We have implemented this clay pot irrigation system in Chile, in Paraguay, and in Brazil. In Chile, we have implemented in 4 regions and 13 communes. And the picture that you see in the middle of the screen, it's a new investigation trial that we're working with INEA La Cruz. And the first 2 lines on the left is just normal water. The 2 lines in the middle, where the clay pots are already in the ground with plants of chard, it's 50% seawater and 50% irrigation or regular water. And the 2 lines on the right hand side, it's 100% seawater. And so far, so good. The plants are doing well, but we haven't finished the trial, and when we cannot announce any results, but we're hoping it will go as well as we are planning, and it will be a solution to produce vegetables with a very low investment, and with seawater, and now with this severe drought that is affecting Chile and several countries in the Americas. These are pictures that where the system has been implemented with small holders of the family agriculture. The second initiative that I would like to share with you is an initiative that is hemispheric, is Living Soils of the Americas. It's a platform led by the Nobel Peace Prize, Dr. Ratan Lal of the Ohio State University, of articulation and integration between public and private sectors to identify and propose solutions to the well-being of soils with concrete actions such as direct sowing, agroforestry, incorporation of organic matter, harvesting of rainwater, planting with control lines, wind-free barriers, among others. But the main thing that we are trying to get is the awareness of local producers and leaders. They have to be aware of the importance of keeping the soil healthy as a fundamental reservoir of carbon, and it's been worked by paying the producers for their positive actions. At the end of the year, they receive some resources for the things that they have done favoring the soils, especially adding organic matter. There's a complete table, and we would like very much to share that information with you if you have a little bit more time, or you can contact us via email or directly to the ICA office in Chile. We are working with INEA, with the Ministry of Agriculture, with the University of Chile, with the Programa para Recuperación de Suelos Degradados. And the third initiative that I would like to share with you is the system of rise intensification that's called SRI. And rise in flooded condition, as you know, can cause up to 12% of global methane emissions, and almost 20% of the world's calories come from rice. And there's always the issue of we are eating more, and we have to take care of our environment in a better way. So the system of rice intensification is a system that research for cultivars that require less water, uses seedlings, not just seeds, that does not use herbicides and does not use flooding. Instead, the plants are irrigated in intervals according to the weather conditions. And now we are implementing commercially this system with very good results. We have a small video as well that I would like to share with you about this system of rice intensification experience adapted to the Chilean conditions. Here are some pictures of the rice being irrigated. As you can see, there's no flooding in rice. Some of the field trips with our tent and doing the evaluations with the technical experts of AICA and INEA together. Also working with the private sector with Tucapel. So let me share you a little bit of the video of the system of rice intensification. We believe that these three experiences that I have shared with you, first the system of irrigation with the clay pots, then the initiative of Living Soils of the Americas, and now this system of rice intensification are concrete actions to mitigate climate change, are actions that does not require a heavy investment, and it can be adopted into public policies that is being done in Chile. And we're very happy with the results so far that we are obtaining, and we would like to share with the other countries, and we would like to mention that we are very open to receive visits virtually or presently, and we can share what has been done and what's been researched here in Chile. And let's remember that agriculture is important 3 times a day. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentations. I will now pass to the chair.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. Welcome to our day 3 of this council meeting. Thank you very much to Fontagro, Procesur, Placa, and ICA for sharing your experience and advances over the last few years with the council. Now we have the opportunity and have with us live the representative from Fontagro, from Placa, and from Prosisur. I would like to invite all three ladies to join us now, and we will open the floor for questions, comments, and precisions, either from our attendees or from our presenters. Good morning. Thank you very much, Eugenia, and both of Cecilia's for joining us today. The representative from ICA has sent his apologies and as he could not join us live. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentations and for sharing the knowledge and experience all institutions have. I will open the floor now for comments and questions. We already have a question for Cecilia Jones about the experience in Uruguay and how all greenhouse gases are accounted for in that initiative, or only some of them. If you could please further discuss or inform us about it, Cecilia.
Yes, hello. Thank you for the question. So yes, total greenhouse gas emissions is what I showed on the slide. And what we do is, so there's a twofold work there. On one side, we are tracking all livestock emissions from all sources and including land use changes related to livestock. Mostly these are systems that work on natural grasslands. So there's very little change in use of soil in these farms that's going on. And at the same time, there's an extensive work being done on carbon sequestration in grasslands. And one of the main goals of the project is to be able to establish a cause and effect between good livestock production practices and how carbon gets sequestered in natural grasslands. So we don't have that data still, but we're hoping by the end of the project to be able to have a good database of how practices in livestock production affect carbon storage in natural grasslands.
Thank you, Cecilia.
I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you, Cecilia. I remind you that the floor is open for questions or comments. You could either raise your hand or leave a question in the chat, and we will take it up live. In the meantime, Eugenia, thank you very much for joining us today. Could you please maybe highlight the impacts or the need for collaboration and what are the benefits for our countries when we collaborate, as we have seen in the examples you provided us today?
Thank you, Marta. It's a pleasure to share with all of you this panel. And also, I want to thank Hayden and the GRA for organizing the meeting, the annual meeting, together with INEA Chile. First of all, I want to highlight that it's very important to work together as an innovation platform, as a multidisciplinary team of scientists in all the challenges that we face together. I was thinking about all the presentation that we have had since Monday, and I think it's very important on our side to keep working in everything that is related with the methodologies, in how we can improve the estimate for the emission, for the GHG emission. And I also want to highlight, which is also important to work on the different type of data capture, the data management, because everything that we are doing in the field and in different research, at the end of the day, it has to help to create more knowledge and especially policy recommendations. So in this approach, I was also talking to Hayden recently, that is very important to create a fora or a dialogue, maybe in a second meeting related with GRA and the partners, where all the projects that we are financing really can show all the new results that they are getting. This is very important because at the end of the day, we have to be able to transmit all this knowledge in new technologies and innovation that help small farmers and farmers at all on getting a very on decreasing the gap that we have in productivity and also in the efficiencies. This is very important because we are having this difference since decades ago, and we still have this job on providing the technologies and the knowledge that will help the farmers to increase these indicators at the same time that be able to reduce the emissions from the whole farms. So I think there is a lot of important topics that we still need to work on. And of course, working in partnership is key, especially because in the case in Fontagro that I can talk about, we co-finance this innovation platform that include more than 2 countries at the same time. So the research is doing is in the field at the same time in 1, 2, or 3 countries, sometimes more. And that provide a very important tool, a chance also to understand how different livestock production system can answer to different technologies. So after all, I think this is a very important approach, just to try to work together in partnership with more than 2 countries and of course public and private organizations, and also invite all the national research institutions and the ministers of agriculture or the environment to share everything that we are doing and see how we can improve also the policy design and policy recommendations.
Thank you, Eugenia. I think it's a key, as you so adequately explained. We have different agricultural systems, different ecosystems, but we face the same challenges. And so collaboration and partnership is essential to move forward. Thank you for your answer. We have a question from the floor. Veronica, are you still with us?
Hello, everyone from Australia. Thank you so much for the talks. It was really inspiring to hear about all the collaboration happening in the Americas. My question is actually for any of you who would like to answer, but it builds off something that Cecilia Giannoni said, which was that you know, the mitigation actions for smallholders need to be very appropriate to their farm context, but smallholders need so much extra support as well. They need the capacity building, the infrastructure. And so I'd like to know, what would you say to people who would then say in response, well, why should we do mitigation with smallholders? Shouldn't we just concentrate on the bigger farms because we're not even getting enough mitigation happening there? So what would you say to people who say there's too much work involved in smallholders, we shouldn't concentrate on them yet? Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica, for such a good question. I will open the floor to our panel. I don't know, Cecilia Giannoni, if you would like to start, or Eugenia.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. Yes, first of all, I will apologize because my presentation didn't see very well, but I know it will be available, so I will be available in the future to make some remarks. What I said is, I think it's very important because in our region, we have 88% of the farmers are family farming. So they have to do things to be more sustainable, to be family farmer sustainability in the production. But I think public research is essential for them. So I think that's the key on the National Agricultural Research Institutes and the mechanisms like Processur, because it's important that any step we can do to demonstrate our sustainability, not just for them. We are working in a global system, food system, that is requiring more and more sustainability, and they are asking every day for the sustainability of our production systems. I think here we have a lot of aspects to show to the region and to the world that we do the things well. But I think the problem is that sometimes we thought that the technology is neutral, but we know that it isn't, because we have a lot of things to do specifically for the scale of the production of the family farmer, not just for the scale, for the needs of them and the capacity to do the things. But as I said, it isn't enough. We have to give them some things, and we have to work together with the system, with public policies, with university or capacities or things like that, because they need a lot of things together. I think it's really important for them, because it's this, or maybe it's not be anything in the future for them. So and this is a problem for the society too, because they need to work, they know how to work the land, and they are there. So I think it's responsible for us to include them, but include it in the beginning of the research, and not just like gender and like other aspects that we have to include it in the moment we think the research, not just then, here is the technology, look at this, you are not using the technology. This is a problem, but I think it's not the only problem that we have. We have a challenge that is created things together, and together with other actors of the system, to guarantee that they can do sustainably the production. So I don't know if exactly what you asked, but I think it's a very big challenge. Besides? No, more for our national agriculture researchers, also, because we have the duty to do research for them. We must do research for them, because anyone is going to do it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. Several points there to be highlighted. I will open the floor to our panelists as well, if you would like to add something else. I think Cecilia, the other Cecilia, you were
I would
asking
like to
for the floor.
add a little bit to what my Tokasha said. And so I agree with what she said, but I would like to add that another thing, at least in Uruguay, we're talking about a production chain. And it is a fact, at least in Uruguay, that many of the cow-calf operations are family farms. So anything we do at the cow-calf level will pull and push the whole beef production system in our country. Meaning we are in fact reducing greenhouse gas emissions at all the levels of the chain if we're able to do better livestock production of the cow-calf operations that are mostly family farms. Those are usually in Uruguay, they're usually in soils that have less capacity, they're not appropriate for crop production, they're not appropriate for finishing, and all those others links of the chain of the livestock production. So it is, one of the answers would be, well, if you have a very inefficient cow operation at the family farm level, then everybody within the chain will pay the consequence in their kilogram of beef. That's to put it in a simple way. And also the other fact is that there's a lot of the work that is just technical assistance, at least in the way we do rangeland beef production, is not so much infrastructure, but more technical assistance, capacity building, and those kind of things. Yeah. There was a question in the chat about manure management and the experience we have on that. And I just want to address that question. We do have work on manure management in dairy farms, not so much in livestock production and beef production, because it's open air, no management of manure. It's not, even in family farms, there's no feedlots or that kind of thing where manure gets collected. Maybe it's a little bit different in other areas of the world, but in Uruguay, we have experience mostly in dairy farms. And there is that other tension between environment, water quality and contamination, and greenhouse gas emissions. And what has happened, what we've seen happen is that there was a lot of work done on reducing contamination of rivers, streams, groundwater, related to bad management in dairy farms. So the government deployed a bunch of actions to reduce the runoff of contaminated water into streams. And in part that led to a slight increase in greenhouse gas emissions. Why? Because we're collecting manure, we're collecting water, and there's anaerobic conditions that lead to methane and other greenhouse gases. So there you have an example where policies and actions have to take into account all the aspects, environmental aspects, when they're done. So what are we doing now is that, so there was a mandatory construction of infrastructure to collect manure in dairy farms. And now we are trying to step up that challenge and manage it in such a way that we also reduce greenhouse gas emissions from manure management systems of dairy farms. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. I think I have a hand raised from Eugenia. Would you like to react as well? Eugenia, please, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. I couldn't unmute my microphone. So complementing also the answers, and thank you very much, Veronica, for bringing this topic to the panel. Working with the small farmers, what I can tell, I have been doing that a few decades ago. It's not an easy work, and it requires joint work from the public and the private sector, and also from the public sector need to bring together different organizations, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Environment, the National Research Institution. That's why, for example, the Frontagro side, we try to build this innovation platform, bringing the main actors, especially because while doing the research, we need to create the environment for the dialogue, because the results from research need to be directed for those who really need it. In the case of the small farmers, we need to see the value chains of the research and development. We work in research, but also we need to work with those organizations that are in charge of the adoption, which sometimes is depend of the country. The adoption strategies is organized by different states organizations. So in my point of view, it's very important that whatever we bring from research, which can be new knowledge, a new technology, a new innovation, need a strategy to put in place in the farm. It's not just because small farmers still has a very important gap in productivity and efficiencies, as I mentioned before, but also because markets are changing all the time. And mostly Latin American countries, especially on the South Horn, they are exporters of meat and dairy products. So it's very important. It's just not for what happened in the farm, but also how the markets are evolving, and at some point can bring back to the countries and to the farmers and farmers organizations new requirements. So I think it's very important to keep an open and wide view, an holistic or integrative approach when we are working on these type of new innovations and new development. And I think that creating this space for a dialogue, as AGRA is doing with all the partnerships, is very important. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Eugenia. I think we have another question from the floors. We would like to welcome the Netherlands. If you could unmute, please.
I did unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you for giving the Netherlands the floor. It's quite an intriguing question. I think it's a question of a statement whether smallholders should put efforts, and we also should support smallholders to mitigate climate.
Mm-hmm.
Allow me to mention the Dutch policy perspective on smallholders. Well, imagine we have there's 500 million small farms, and they cover 80% of the food consumed in a large part of the developed world, contributing significantly to poverty reduction and food security. So for us, it's not a question if, but only the question how the GRA in this case can support small farmers to mitigate their agriculture production to more climate neutrality. And well, that's a statement by the Dutch government, and we expect that the GRA research community reach out to smallholder farmers and reach out to governments to develop a method and means of working to support smallholder farmers to mitigate. And when it's interesting for other member countries of GRA, well, I think you could adopt this policy statement regarding the support to smallholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the Netherlands, for that statement. I think we all agree on the relevance and the significant role smallholders should be playing, and the contributions an institution like the GRA and the ones that are joining us today for this workshop should contribute. I think we also should remember that smallholders are key for food security in each country. In many times, I think Eugenia already mentioned this, but in our countries in Latin America, exports are mostly associated to big farms, industrial farms, while the food production for the country for internal consumption is based on a smallholder production. And I think there is another aspect there that we should also keep in mind. In most cases as well, and Australia, I'm sure you know about this, we have ancestral knowledge there in those communities, and it's very relevant to maintain that over the years and integrate information. And I think, as Cecilia Giannoni was mentioning, the co-creation and the collaboration with the farmers from the beginning, not only receiving information, but co-creating and adapting technology that's applicable and useful for them. Australia, I don't know if you would like to react on these comments. I think your question was key and created a lot of discussion. And I don't know, Veronica, if you would like to join us again. Don't feel the pressure. It's okay if you're not. We still have time for another question. Veronica, we can hear you now. Are you there for us? Oh, no, but sorry, we got a hand raise. Andrew, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And sorry I was slightly late at the start in a CGIAR meeting. Yes, there's a very interesting program of work in Northern Australia that is based to a large degree on traditional fire management in savanna landscapes. So that has been running for some time now. It has an accredited methodology under our Emissions Reduction Fund in Australia, where using traditional knowledge, Indigenous ranger groups on their own country implement low intensity fire practices at a landscape scale early in the dry season. It's a monsoonal, wet, dry savanna tropical situation. And if the fires burn early in the dry season, they just burn the grass layer and don't burn all of the trees. And those fires prevent much hotter fires and much larger fires that can happen late in the dry season, particularly when you might get lightning, dry lightning causing ignition. And if the country hasn't been burnt, then those late dry season fires are very hot, very large, very extensive. And in the tropical savannas of Northern Australia, an area about the same size as Germany burns each year. The only question is whether it burns hot or whether it burns at low intensity. And there's a big difference in emissions between the hot fires and the so-called cool fires. And the Aboriginal people get carbon credits for the difference in emissions, because they're able to show through long-term monitoring that where they've been implementing their practices, the emissions at a landscape scale are lower over a decade period. So it's a very interesting methodology. There's a lot, there've been very good published papers written about that. And our colleagues in DFAT in Australia are funding trials of that same methodology in, I think, Botswana, and also looking to, that has been also tried in Timor-Leste. But it's very extensive across Northern Australia. And in some cases, those carbon credits are now purchased by multinational oil and gas companies as part to reduce their own net emissions. So ConocoPhillips pays about 20 million Australian dollars per year to Indigenous people for the carbon credits generated by their savanna burning practices. So yes, it's an extremely interesting approach at a landscape scale. Over.
Thank you, Australia, for sharing those experiences with us. I think we have a reaction from our panel. Eugenia, you have your hand raised, please. You are mute.
Yes, now I can. Okay. So thank you very much again. And I will like to follow up with our colleague from the Netherlands was mentioning before. And I think something that we maybe need to think about is in next annual meeting, we have to bring representative from the multilateral investment organizations, because everything that we are doing at the end of the day, it is need someone that can find or fund, better said, the way small farmers or big farmers can adopt technology. So we are working in all the research and adoption aspects, but at the same time, we have to invite those people that can make decision on investment in our countries. And that way we can socialize not only the results of the research, but also the needs that the small farmers or farmers at all have in order to adopt all this new knowledge. So I think it's very important to maybe move a little bit forward and try to open the meeting, bring in a panel. Maybe I didn't talk with Hayden about this before, sorry Hayden, but I think it's very important to start inviting all those organizations that have the chance to invest in everything that we are doing from the research side.
Thank you. Thank you, Eugenia. We have a request from the floor from Indonesia. Please, Indonesia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Marta, and also thank you for chairing this GRA, and also thank you to Hayden. I would like to share a little bit our experience in Indonesia when it comes to mitigation under smallholders farmers. And we know that smallholders farmers is producing food for domestic consumption. So there is nothing of international trade rules which is being imposed, or it's also impossible to impose the carbon tax. The government is preparing what they call the cap trade and tax for carbon emission for all sectors, but I don't think that it will be work for the smallholder farmers. So in my observation and in my experience, when you talk to smallholders farmers, you need to put adaptation as the entry point. So you need to show the smallholders what it means in terms of the resilience of the system, what it means in terms of their production. For instance, urea is relatively cheap in Indonesia, so there is a tendency of some farmers to use a high amount of urea without a balance with other nutrients. So our our campaign is to explain to them that overuse of urea will cause imbalance and will cause your crop to be more susceptible to pests and disease, and also it will waste much of your time, of your money, sorry. And also in terms of feed quality for livestock, if you improve your feed quality, that's the important point for the farmers to increase their production. But we understand that when the feed quality is improved, there is also the probability of reducing methane from enteric emission. So that's how we do it here in Indonesia. I wonder if in South America you can sell the idea of mitigation without the entry point of adaptation. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Agus, for joining us live and for your comments and information from Indonesia. I think if our panelists would like to add a comment on carbon credits and experience within Latin America, we could answer the requirement from Indonesia. Otherwise, I think Cecilia Giannoni, you would like to add something? If you unmute yourself, we will be able to hear you.
Hello. Now I can do it. Thank you. No, I think here in our region, mitigation was not the principal aspect that we researched in the last. We just include the mitigation agenda in the last 5 or 6 years. We don't have. We do much more for adaptation at first, because we know that maybe agriculture is not the principal source of GHG. So maybe of that, and our region is not the most important region to produce GHG. So maybe for that, I think it wasn't the principal agenda at the beginning. But now we are doing a lot of things. We are starting to do investigation, not just with GHG, with animal welfare too, and things like that demonstrate the sustainability of the systems. We have natural pastures, we have integrated agriculture that do a lot of studies for mitigate and carbon sequestration, and we have a lot of things to do. I think it's a challenge in the future to do more, but we are conscious that the methane has a short-time impact in the temperature of the planet, so we have to do something. It's not the only thing; it's just a contribution we can do. But I think it's a key to do that, and it's more recent. I think it's maybe because we don't have the importance. We need to do more for adaptation at the beginning, and now we are doing more things to mitigation too. But maybe I don't know in everything, but in Procesur, and I think in the INARIS that we are working with, it's more recent, the mitigation agenda, but for that it's important. It's really important for us to do. So what the Procesur is going to do a task force, like I said, and we are going to share the contributions that the NRS are doing of that issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. And we will go back to Veronica from Australia to hear your reactions about all this discussion we have had. We are ready for you, Veronica. We are making the appropriate connections.
I think I have been allowed now. Hello, everyone. Well, it's a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much. As you know, ACR, the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research, we're very much all about benefit to smallholders. So my question was a sort of prompt to understand how you might answer questions that sometimes I receive. And I think what's really interesting about this discussion is how much those answers have evolved and become very diverse over time. So only a few years ago, people might have said the main reason is that smallholders collectively contribute quite a lot to greenhouse gas emissions. So we need to work with them. But what I'm hearing so much more now are these very kind of complex and diverse reasons why there are direct benefits to smallholders, why they play really critical roles in value chains for food security and economic security, and particularly the pressures that are going to be coming through as we implement things like the cap and trade scheme in Indonesia. Smallholders could very quickly get left out of important markets and global markets that they absolutely need to connect with and participate with. So just my reflection is that discussion I thought really enriched our kind of collective understanding about those important direct benefits to smallholders that now come in many ways directly from mitigation, not just from adaptation or increasing productivity or profitability. So thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. I think Cecilia Jones, you would like to add something? We are starting to close up this section.
Yes, I would like to a couple of points that I want to make. One is how this is much more than smallholder discussion. It's an overall agricultural discussion, and it's very hard for us to separate because I think it's a good thing that we see the thing as a system. And regarding the question about adaptation and mitigation and the balance between those two things, I think from a regional point of view, where I'm sitting, adaptation is the entry point, and we need to underline and highlight that priority for our region, and for many reasons. But so. And as countries start to develop their long-term strategy of the Paris Agreement, and we're all committing to a development that is low in carbon, that is neutral in carbon, that is zero carbon. All the gases are included, and livestock in particular, that are the things that I've been talking at least, has a major role in greenhouse gas emissions, and it has all that discussion that comes into long-term gases and short-term. It's very technical, but at the end of the day, all the countries have to show the effort they're making to solve these problems. All the areas of the economy have to show that they're making the effort. And then we know, because we're in agriculture, that it's not the same as building infrastructure and passing laws is one thing, and producing food has a lot of other implications that is not so easy to solve, because there are complex systems there, and there's biology involved, and it's a great challenge. In my country, most of the greenhouse gas emissions are methane from livestock production. And so we see adaptation as the center of our climate strategies, and we will do the effort. We are doing the effort. For example, we joined the methane pledge for the Glasgow meeting, and we are questioned, in our brains of how to achieve these goals, how to be able to contribute and go beyond the goals of reducing greenhouse gas intensity of emissions, and be able to actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions while being able to keep exporting our products, keep bringing things that make our livelihoods better and the farmers' livelihood better. It's a hard challenge, and I think there's a lot of us here that we share the same issues regarding the balance between adaptation and mitigation.
Thank you, Cecilia. We are reaching the closing time for this section. I think, Eugenia, you wanted to add some closing remarks from the panel.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Marta. Yes, just complementing everything that we have been said in this panel, climate change doesn't distinguish on the type of farmers. It's affect to everyone. But the difference is in the opportunity that those farmers have to adopt technologies and knowledge that will help them to be more resilient to the impact of the climate change. And in order to be effective on that, we need to work with other organizations that can assure us that everything that we invest in the research is going to go to the beneficiaries. I mean, to everyone that need that technology. From Fontagro, we have been working in adaptation and mitigation strategies to cope to climate change in different regions in Central America, in the Andean region, in the South Horn. But still a lot of work need to be done. We have to train our researchers, technicians, and also work at the same time with the farmers. And that way we are more effective. We will be more effective on creating those strategies, that opportunity for farmers to get exactly the better answer in how they can be more effective in adapting and mitigating to climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eugenia, and thank you to our panel today. This was a very interesting conversation and discussion. I think you have showed us different examples of how we are dealing with these different aspects in our continent. And of course, we are all open for collaboration and enhancing the co-creation and relationship between our institutions. And thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you also to the floor for their very challenging questions and interesting discussion. I ask you all, including our panel, to please turn on your cameras. We would like to make a family photo from our meeting. And for that, we need you all to please turn on your cameras for a little while. We are working with the production team to do so. So please bear with us and just turn on your cameras and wait for a little while the pictures are taken. And a smile, of course. I can see some of you are smiling already. We are preparing everything. There you are, all together. Turn on your cameras if you are still off. We have more than 80 attendees today. So we will be very grateful if we can have you all in this photo. There we are, nearly there, nearly there. Thank you, everyone. Then we will take the photos now. Please smile and say whiskey or greenhouse gas emissions or GRA, of course. Thank you very much, everyone. With this, we will finish this session and we go with Alfonso.
Thanks everyone for your words. Now we will have a short 10-minute break. Stay with us and see you in a little while.
El Instituto de Investigaciones Agropecuarias INIA es una institución de investigación, desarrollo e innovación agroalimentaria vinculada al Ministerio de Agricultura de Chile. Fue creado el 8 de abril de 1964 como corporación de derecho privado sin fines de lucro. Hoy, cerca de 1.000 personas altamente calificadas conforman su equipo de trabajo. El instituto tiene presencia en todo el territorio nacional a través de sus 10 centros regionales, oficinas técnicas, campos y centros experimentales. Cuenta también con una red de bancos de germoplasma, 17 laboratorios especializados, cerca de 160 estaciones agrometeorológicas al servicio de la innovación científica del país y una nutrida red de vinculación internacional. En la actualidad, INIA trabaja en 5 áreas temáticas priorizadas para responder a los desafíos de la agricultura: cambio climático, sustentabilidad, alimentos del futuro, tecnologías emergentes y extensión, transferencia tecnológica y formación de capacidades. Anualmente, el instituto ejecuta un promedio de 400 proyectos de investigación, desarrollo, innovación, extensión y transferencia tecnológica, con financiamiento público y privado proveniente de fondos nacionales e internacionales. En sus más de 55 años de historia, INIA ha contribuido al desarrollo de Chile por medio de la creación de nuevas variedades de frutales, nuevas y mejores variedades de cultivos y cereales que hoy lideran en participación de mercado, la introducción y validación de especies con potencial productivo que son parte relevante de la oferta exportadora nacional, el rescate de especies nativas y la puesta en valor de ingredientes y bioinsumos. Asimismo, ha aportado a la conservación de los recursos genéticos y microbianos como patrimonio de la humanidad, al desarrollo de técnicas sustentables para el manejo y control de plagas y enfermedades, a la extensión de tecnologías que favorecen la productividad de agricultores y ganaderos, mejorando su calidad de vida, y a la adaptación del sector agropecuario a los nuevos escenarios de cambio climático. INIA se proyecta como institución líder en I+D+I para el desarrollo agroalimentario sostenible de Chile, creando valor y proponiendo soluciones innovadoras a los agricultores, socios estratégicos y a la sociedad. INIA, más de 55 años liderando el desarrollo agroalimentario sostenible de Chile.
Welcome back to the Global Research Alliance Council, 2022, Day 3. To continue the meeting, we give the floor to the chair.
Thank you, Alfonso. We will move now to the next agenda item. This is the review of the 2021 operational plan. And this will be taken up by our special representative, Hayden Montgomery. So Hayden, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marta. I will share my screen. Hopefully that will come through on the streaming. Still, I don't see it yet. There we go. Great. So look, first of all, thanks to the panelists in the workshop we've just had. It was really great. Very interesting discussion, actually, and it's great to see some of our long-standing partners involved in that, as well as some new initiatives. So I'm going to give the sort of customary review of the progress we made in implementing the operational plan, which, as you know, is the annual plan that accompanies our strategic plan, which, of course, is a 5-year strategic plan that we adopted at the previous council meeting. This review is, it's, I guess, sort of a qualitative assessment of whether we've achieved the things we've set out, or how much of the things we set out we have achieved. So it's sort of mine and Deborah's assessment, and I'm using very simple graphics to demonstrate progress. So apologies for the red crosses on some things. It's simply meant to be very clear. And of course, you know, all of these actions that we've set out, we can pick up in future years as well. So just to work through, the way I've done this is I've taken the actions that correspond to the strategic priorities we have of the plan. The first being to further research collaboration. And so just to work through each one in turn, we had an action to support the development and implementation of a proposed international research consortium on soil carbon. And I've assessed this as being a success, because we have in fact heard from our co-chair of the integrated research group that there was a proposal made which has been called ORCASA, which follows on from CIRCASA, and it has an explicit objective of setting up an international research consortium that would address a strategic research agenda on soil carbon. So I could say that for this year we've achieved that, and of course we wait with anticipation of that ORCASA project getting going, so that we can connect that into the GRA activities. We had another action, which was to develop a proposal which is called MACB on adaptation and mitigation co-benefits, and likewise that was achieved. We heard that proposal at the meeting. The decision is still pending about the adoption of that as a flagship, but the proposal has been made, so I would say achieved. We also made a priority on identification of co-benefits from reducing emissions as a way to prioritize agricultural practices that also contribute to adaptation in other areas. And we heard in the workshop, of course, how important this is. And I would say that we went some way towards delivering on this action. If you recall, at the COP with Australia's leadership, we organised a side event on exactly that topic, on contemplating the co-benefits as a means to promote more rapid adoption of good practices. And so I think, yeah, we're moving in the right direction, and of course we can do more. And that would go hand in hand with, for example, the flagship proposal of MACB, amongst other things. Continuing through with more under the further research collaboration priority area, we agreed we would establish a working group to explore the role of innovation within the GRA, to advance mitigation objectives, ensuring farmers' participation, and report back at this meeting. My assessment is that some progress was made, probably not as much as we had hoped, and I think we heard from the discussion on day one that that work should continue, and so you know, some progress, but I wouldn't say complete by any means. The other action, or another action, was to build a network supporting Indigenous scientists' capability across the GRA. And if you recall from not only, but certainly the New Zealand country update on the beginning of day 2, we heard that some progress had been made in establishing such a network and making some connections internationally with it, although it was hampered by the ongoing pandemic, of course. So likewise, some progress, not as much as we all would have hoped when we established this action, but I would say there are factors that are beyond our control. So, likewise, that there's work to be done, and I'm sure that would continue with New Zealand, Samoa, and other countries who expressed interest in that. There was another action also that was to launch a network on Mediterranean climate, or agriculture in Mediterranean climates, I should say. This is my first start across, so that wasn't set up. So the question would be to the membership, would there still be interest in establishing such a network, and who would take the lead to do that? And again, there are reasons why that doesn't happen. It's not to blame anyone, it's just to note that it wasn't a completed action. Now, turning to the next priority area in the strategic plan, which is fostering outreach, knowledge sharing and information exchange. We set ourselves the goal of having online webinars and training materials made available on the GRA website. And I would say, in some ways, we've been forced into this through COVID-19 circumstances, but we certainly have made progress. And I think you've seen from the research group presentations and others that there has been a significant effort to organise well the various webinars and online activities with more consistent branding and dissemination from the GRA Secretariat, and to make all of that available on the website. So I think we've done well, and I'm sure that will just be an ongoing way of working from now on. Now, there's a long action here, which is about early career scientists' capability building. I won't read the whole thing, but it refers to various scholarship and awards programs that we operate, like Cliff Grads, like the Roof Forum, etc. This is, we've made some good progress, but it's a big task. So I would say, it's not complete, but we certainly have made progress. We've connected the IPCC scholarship alumni to the Cliff Grads webinar series, etc. So there's now an integrated alumni network of those different programs. We've also, through the work of Katja, again in Ireland, made some progress in reviewing and sort of searching for existing relevant awards and scholarships programs that are offered by members and partners, and started to identify those and explore those to work out which ones would be possible to utilise in the context of GRA activity. So, look for more information coming from this. I would remind countries, partners to, make information available to the Secretariat also. If you know of programs that support early career scientists in your own countries, that would offer opportunities for scientists in other countries to travel to your country or to be recipients of awards, then please just let us know. We can find the best way to organise that information and make that available to people through our various social media platforms, website, etc. Continuing with the same priority action, we talked about undertaking a research and capability stocktake to track the progress on the GRA after the last 10 years. We heard on day one the report back from Nina and the strong interest to continue to implement that stocktake. So I would say task completed in terms of preparing for that. Now the work is to do the stocktake and finish that. So I would assume that will be a very important action of the upcoming operational plan. Sort of a little bit of a repeat on the previous priority around webinars. The idea here was that the Secretariat would provide support to coordinate these different webinars and have more of an organised calendar of events. I think likewise, largely implemented, but an ongoing activity, as I mentioned before. It's not just going to stop this year. Here are a couple of activities. One which is where council members were encouraged to identify policy questions for the groups and partners to respond to. We didn't receive policy questions from members, so the question would be, is that still an action we wish to have in the plan, and how do we ensure that we make progress on that one? And the final one in this priority area is to that each of the research groups should contribute at least one summary of the kind of co-benefits between adaptation and mitigation, etc., as an external communication of the GRA. Likewise, not, at least to my knowledge, not completed. So again, how do we ensure we can do this? Does it need reworking or modifying in the context of a 2022 operational plan? Now, just the final couple of priority areas. One is on building effective partnerships. This was a task that I guess the Secretariat and myself set for ourselves to establish partners pages on the website so that more information of partners' activities could be included. And we didn't do this. It is something we can absolutely do. And if people agree, we'll put this on the next year's plan. It's not a significant task. It's just one that slipped, I guess, for various reasons. And the other one was probably largely my responsibility, which was to create a partners forum, so we can try and better connect, partners sort of amongst themselves between the different partners, to enable a stronger GRA, right? And try to look for synergies between various partners' activities. And I think the workshop this morning, we heard from, four partner organisations, and we can already see in some cases there's collaboration occurring, so it's really good for us to know that. So again, if there's interest, we can continue to make this an action for the next plan. Finally, the final priority area is about leveraging financial and other resources. I gave this a low score, and Deb suggested it probably was a bit harsh, because the wording was systematically identify research funding schemes that allow participation of international partners and communicate it back to the Council and Secretariat. Probably we didn't do it systematically per se, but certainly I think you've all seen that we have made some progress in supporting the involvement of international partners in different research platforms and calls. And just to cite a couple of examples, the EJP soil external call, where we were able to support a number of research teams from developing countries in those largely European, but not only European, research consortia, and likewise with the circularity and mixed cropping livestock systems, the same thing was possible, supporting research teams from developing countries. So I think that's really good progress. I think the constraints on this really are the availability of resources to do that. So we've been fortunate enough to receive, as GRA Secretariat, resources to be able to use as if we were a funder, and enable that participation to happen. But if more resources were available from members or partners to do that, we would be more than happy to receive those and use those on your behalf to do those sorts of activities and be involved in more of these calls, because I think they are really important, and they reap lots of benefit for those involved, and for the GRA. It's good visibility for the GRA. So my score here is, not a big tick, it's a medium tick, because we made progress, but perhaps not as systematic as we had anticipated at the outset. So that concludes the kind of qualitative assessment of the operational plan. If there are any burning questions, I guess there might be time, Marta, I'm not sure, or we could leave those for the discussion on the future, which would come next. Thank you.
Thank you, Hayden, for that update on the working plan for 2021. I think it was quite an ambitious plan, and that's partially explain why some of our small ticks. I think you're all quite strict as well. Some of them should have been big tick. There has been a lot of work within the Secretariat and the Special Representative. We have time for burning questions or comments to what our work plan for 2021 was. So I will open the floor for comments from parties.
If I might make an observation, Marta,
Yes,
while people are thinking, I think we benefited significantly from the work we did at the last council meeting to really streamline the operational plan and focus on activities that would or should be concluded within the year. And I think from memory, the previous operational plans had potentially up to 30 priority actions, and one would question the use of the word priority when you have 30. But we were able to condense that down to a shorter list of concrete actions, and I think you can see that's meant we can demonstrate progress. Whereas in previous years it was a little bit less obvious.
Thank you for the clarification, Hayden. I think we should also be aware that some actions will take more than a year, and we need to consider that as well, or they are continuous actions over time. I'm looking here at the floor to see if there is any requests for questions or comments. If there are no burning comments or questions, we thank again to Hayden. Oh, we have a question now. We will go to Brazil, to Ladislau. Well, while we prepare everything, Ladislau.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Hayden, for nice, excellent job that you are performing. Please, regarding one topic, I just missed the full information. Please, if you could repeat. Regarding the flagship on co-benefits, you told that Australia will be in charge. Please, if you could just repeat. Thank you very much.
Okay, so there were two things that related to co-benefits. One I mentioned with Australia was a side event that was organised at COP26, which was called Contemplating the Co-Benefits. And it was about trying to identify how, in fact, the entry point towards mitigation being through, say, adaptation or other benefits that would be realised by the farmer or others. And that event happened in COP. So that was one. And the other, which is the flagship proposal, is that that we set ourselves the task of having a proposal prepared called MAC-B, which was presented by Cynthia yesterday. And that proposed flagship is still pending adoption by the GRA because, to our knowledge at least, and we'll have this confirmed later, we didn't quite achieve the minimum number of council champions in the conversation we had yesterday. So absolutely that would come back in the next session to be discussed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the precision and the clarification, Hayden. We have a comment from the USA in the chat, thanking the Secretariat and the presentation and the updates. If there are no further comments, we will move then to the next agenda item, which is associated to the planning of our work for this 2022 year. Thank you, Hayden, for being with us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks.
And we will welcome for next session to our Secretariat, to Deborah Knox. She will be sharing with us a summary of what the highlights of the meeting have been and the implication this has for actions plan for 2022. And during that presentation, we will go back to the discussion and we'll seek support from the floor for the pending flagship initiatives. Deborah, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marta. Right, I just wanted to share with you the outcomes that we have heard over the last 3 days from the meeting and get any feedback or additions that you might think we have missed. These outcomes will then lead to the development of the operational plan for the coming year, so 2022, alongside any action items that weren't completed in the last year that were shown in Hayden's run through earlier. So on day one, we had Spain confirmed as the new vice chair and will host the meeting in 2023. We also confirmed that the GRA would become a supporter of the Global Methane Pledge, with the special representative and secretariat to be liaising with that initiative. We heard from the Innovation Working Group and approved their tour and work plan, and so they will continue to work on that in the coming year. And also we heard from the Research Stocktake Working Group on their work plan and agreed that they would continue with this stocktake and undertake the work in the next year. We reviewed the terms of reference for the special representative and the enhanced secretariat, and the members agreed that this work would continue and the terms of reference was currently fit for purpose. New Zealand indicated that they were happy to continue hosting for the next term. On day two, we heard from the research groups of the research groups, the working groups, and the need to develop some of the recommendations from these research groups. So the research group suggested that there is further need to continue supporting and developing opportunities for the least and middle income developed countries to be involved in some of the network activities, particularly research funding, such as examples with the European calls that took place last year. There's also a greater need to develop links from research to knowledge transfer and policy within the research groups. The research groups are also looking to seek greater collaboration with private companies, for example, on topics of soil, carbon and circularity. So there may be some opportunities to get involved with some of our new partners on that. And then also there's the call to develop projects across networks in some more cross-cutting ways. And I think there's possibly an opportunity to develop more flagship activities in this area. And there was also the suggestion again from co-chairs that there might be an opportunity to look at resourcing of the co-chair positions and the role of these and the time duration of these roles, as well as some of the co-chairs are not as well resourced as others. The other session on day 2 was the flagship projects, as we've already heard. So we did confirm 4 new flagship projects yesterday. So that was the GHG mitigation in cattle farming, remote sensing in grasslands, nitrogen fertilizer emissions, and the feed additives flagships as well. They all had significant support from GRA Council members. We're still awaiting Council support for 2 of the flagships that were proposed yesterday. That's the Hungate collection, and that had support from UK and New Zealand. So we're still looking for another 3 council champions who will agree to help support that project. And then also the MACB project, which has support already from Australia and the US. And I just want to note that council champions doesn't mean necessarily that you will have to provide resource to the project or necessarily be involved with it. It's more just making sure that you've actually read through the proposal as provided and agree that it meets the criteria for being a GRA flagship project. That being said, you know, countries that are already involved in those projects and providing resource to them, we would expect that they would have an interest in being a council champion of those flagship proposals. And then finally, some additional outcomes that we still need to confirm as well. We need to think about the Environmental Defence Fund and whether they should be invited to be a GRA partner. That was mentioned by Hayden at the start on day 1. We also have some additional actions coming from the operational plan. So thinking about how we might further the development of a Mediterranean agriculture network, if we still want to do that, who would be leading that activity. The questions of policy, policy to research that came from both the council and the research groups. What would that look like? What would that activity be under there? The development of research summaries from the research groups on co-benefits. We also need to continue with the partners projects on the GRA website, as mentioned already, but we'll be looking at doing this as the Secretariat anyhow, probably, if partners are happy for us to do that. And then the establishment of a partners forum. And then we'd also be happy to hear from you if we've missed anything or if there's anything further that you'd like to put on the action items from this. I would also just like to note that these items will be sent around with the meeting report. And so you will have an opportunity to also provide further comments on that meeting report and the action items at that stage as well, before we then finalise the operational plan with those actions on it. So thank you, Marta.
Thank you, Deb, for the fantastic list of actions we have already agreed and the pending list we need to analyze now. I will suggest we take the pending items we have on our list, starting by the 2 flagships and see if we can find support from the floor. for those initiatives. So we have the Handgate Collection 2 initiative that we have seen already in the chat. Ireland has confirmed support, as well as Canada. So I don't know if there is other member countries that would like to express their support for the Handgate Collection 2 initiative, so that we can confirm the support of the Council. We have also from Colombia the support for this initiative. I'm not sure, Deb, if with those we are already at the minimum we need to confirm the support of the Council. Okay, wonderful. Thank you to the Council. So we can confirm the support and endorse the Handgate Collection 2 flagship. Now we will move to the MACB initiative and see what's the level of support from the floor for this initiative. This will be tied as well to the pending action from 2021, looking at co-benefits between mitigation and adaptation. So I'll say if we find support in the floor to this initiative, we will continue with the actions we have planned in 2021 in relation to this topic. So I'll ask the floor, either by the chat or raising your hand, if you could provide your opinion on this. In the meanwhile, I will say that the topic raised and the activities planned by the MACB initiative are full of interest of Chile. We have some collaboration with stakeholders from the private sector, particularly in the dairy sector, that are already starting to consider the farm level approach and carbon balance and integrated carbon balance as an alternative to introduce mitigation and adoption of actions within farming. So Chile is prepared to support and endorse the MACB initiative as well. We have a request from the floor directly from Australia. Veronica, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marta, and very exciting to hear Chile's support for MACB. The one thing I was going to say is that the MACB flagship proposal itself was developed very late as the team and frankly, myself are learning about the flagship proposal process in the GRA. So I would be very happy to engage with anyone who thinks they might be interested, but would like more information, would like that proposal to be developed a little bit more. The reason Australia has been interested and has supported the initial trial is that, we've been talking about mitigation, adaptation, productivity, profitability, co-benefits today. And we've been saying how much that for smallholders in particular, adaptation is the entry point. And part of what that means is that the best adaptation actions may not necessarily be the best mitigation actions. And the best mitigation actions may not necessarily be the best adaptation actions. And there are very, very many options when it comes to adaptation and increases in profitability, etc. So the whole point is to be able to use a modeling approach that can make our options much clearer, much faster, so that instead of spending decades on many, many, many different field trials, we can narrow down the options and focus on field trials and accelerated policy development for the options that are likely to give the best co-benefits. So that's the intent behind it. And I recognize that the proposal may still need a bit of work, but very happy if anyone wants to get in contact and have a discussion about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. That's wonderful. Indonesia, it's ready to endorse and support the MACB initiative as well. So at the moment, we have Indonesia, Chile, and of course, Australia. So that's wonderful. If we have more requests for the floor from our colleagues or otherwise in the chat, maybe comments. If that's not the case, then there are only 3 countries supporting the initiative so far. Deb, I will ask you to confirm if that it's enough, or otherwise we will seek
Marlon
further.
has just also confirmed that the USA is going to support.
Perfect. So we are 4 then. That's good. So in that case, I will understand that there is enough support from the floor to endorse this initiative as well. And we will continue seeking further elaboration and further information on this initiative during the year together with the Secretariat, if the floor agrees on that. Thank you very much, colleagues. Now, if we move to the following slide Deb was showing us, we have several items pending for decision, and we'll see if we can move forward through them quite quickly. The first one was to invite the Environmental Defense Fund as a GRI partner. That was proposed on day 1, and it was mentioned in the report by our special representative. If I don't hear anything on contrary, I will suggest, I will kindly ask the Council to endorse this decision. Do we have any comments or other opinions about what we would like to do is to invite the IDF to become a GRI partner during the year. If there are no further comments, then this will be a task that will be undertaken by the Secretariat during the year. Then there are other actions still that come from the 2021 working plan that were left pending, and Hayden was showing us this morning. And if you agree, and considering the time slot allocated to this meeting, we will review them with the Secretariat and our Vice Chair during the year and seek for further actions, if that's agreeable to you all. Deb, I don't know if any of those pending actions require further information or further confirmation from the Council. And if we could seek that over the email later on during the year.
Yeah, that's right. As I mentioned, people will have a chance to comment on the actions further in the research group, in the research report that's sent around, and also the operational plan will look to develop some of those outcomes into more concrete actions that can be progressed over the year. The one item I think that we could probably call for any discussion on perhaps is the leadership of the Mediterranean Network. Mm-hmm. If anybody was interested in stepping up right now to do that, but if not, we can also continue to progress that over email and find a leader for that.
Thank you, Deb. So I will ask the floor for voluntaries to take up on the leadership for the Mediterranean Agricultural Network. I'm looking closely to our Vice Chair, new Vice Chair, seeking their interest. Otherwise, we will ask by email later on when we send the minutes of the meeting. I don't see any reactions from the floor, Deborah, at the moment. So I think for the rest of the actions, the pending actions, we will ask the Council to provide their comments on the text and the minutes from the meeting. Thank you, Deborah, for your update and the hard work over the year. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for this section of the meeting. And now we will go back to Alfonso.
Thank you very much, Ms. Knox, for your words and work. To close the Council meeting, we have Marta Alfaro, representing Chair, whom will give the closing remarks of the Global Research Alliance Council 2022.
Thank you, Alfonso. As we approach the closing of the 2022 GRI Council meeting, I would like to reflect on the changes we have faced around the world on climate change. 11 years ago, when the GRI started, the world was several steps behind the level of awareness we have today around this topic, and in relation to the role that the agri-food sector had to play as per contributing to the mitigation of emissions while providing food security and improving the livelihood of farmers, particularly of our smallholders, as we discussed this morning. This has become even more evident if we consider the COVID-19 pandemic. Significant progress has been made since then, although today we are at a tipping point to generate a significant effect on emissions reductions. Many will say that the speed at which we have progressed is not enough, and that we are still far away from the required targets. Nevertheless, I invite you all to also recognize and acknowledge the significant progress made by our countries over the years. As the country statements we heard yesterday showed, I'm sure other countries represented in this council have experienced similar levels of activity, involvement, and leadership. We should also be aware of the scientific contributions that the GRI Research Group have made over the years, particularly their contribution to practical recommendations and technologies that can be implemented at the farm level. Thus, today when new initiatives and actions arise around mitigation in the agricultural sector in international fora, the GRA becomes a relevant and experienced actor to get involved with. In addition, the flagships endorsed during our council meeting, all in key aspects associated to mitigation and productivity of agricultural systems, will provide an adequate framework for our research teams over the coming years. These initiatives are time-bound, inclusive, and will take us forward in an integrated manner, bringing together the experience and knowledge available in our countries and partners, allowing us, the generation of new knowledge. Considering this, I invite all council members to strengthen their contribution and support, both in cash and in kind, for the work of the GRA co-chairs and research teams in the years ahead. There is still much to do and little time to do so. Thank you to the Ministry of Agriculture for the trust placed in our institution to act as a GRA Council counterpart. I also would like to express my gratitude to the GRA Special Representative, the Enhanced Secretariat, the Research Group's co-chair, all colleagues actively participating in the GRA activities, and the new Vice Chair, Spain. I hope we can continue closely collaborating during 2022. I would like to thank to our INEAS team for their work to organize this meeting, and to the support and production staff behind the scenes. Finally, thank you all for attending this virtual reunion. We hope the situation next year improves and we can meet up in person. In the meantime, I wish you all and your families a healthy year. Thank you very much for joining us during these 3 days. And we will go back to Alfonso.
Thank you very much for your words, Ms. Marta Alfaro. It has been a pleasure for you to join this council. And thanks every person who has been presenting and reporting on the 3 days. We hope you enjoyed the council meeting. Goodbye and have a good rest of your week.